Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the CANDU Sports Show. Yours truly, Scott Blair and Donray Bennett. Good to be with you all. Donray, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Another exciting episode. Some good things to talk about, and overall, looking forward to the back stretch for this NBA and NHL season. And then the draft coming up. It's a great time, and my favorite time of year. Just
Love it.
a week or two away from true March Madness, the conference tour. I say a week or two because the conference tourneys are really when it starts.
They're right around the
And
corner.
then we hit the big boy. My favorite behind Thanksgiving, my second favorite day of the year is the first Thursday. I don't know what
Mhm.
round it is these days. Now we have 75 teams or whatever it is, but the first Thursday, ah,
March 14th.
I love it.
I think
Yep.
it's March 14th. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
let's get to it. So, to our people, we're going to talk a little bit about some golf. We're going to talk a little bit about college football and then tease the NFL draft. But we do want to give a shout out to college basketball because the time's coming and we're going to spend some time on that when it's here. And yeah, this is the best time of year because we had what? Just look at the last couple of weeks. We had NHL All-Star Game, right, or the Outdoor Classic. We had the Super Bowl. We had the NBA All-Star Game. We had the Daytona 500. These are big marquee events. Um, and yeah, we're going to have the Players Championship in a couple of weeks. We're going to have March Madness. We're going to have Augusta and the Masters. Boom, boom, boom. Every week there's something
Every
going on.
week. Yep.
So
Yep.
let's get to it. So,
Absolutely.
golf. We're going to open up with golf because last week was a big week for the sport. And then also kind of a down week for the sport, all within the span of like 72 hours. Tiger Woods, welcome back. The announcement of his new brand now that he and Nike have separated. And that's a whole story of just Nike refocusing on some of its core items, and stepping away from the golf marketplace. But Sunday Red is here. I'm a fan, although the logo kind of looks like Slazenger, but also it also doesn't, but
Sure.
does. But I like it. It's fresh. It's new. I'm not sure if I like Sunday Red. I think you maybe should have just called it Tiger Brand or something like that. But anyways, he was back. I saw his first round. Was watching it when I could, and I thought he was doing pretty good considering it's his first round back, grinding and everything else. And then he gets the flu. Like everybody around us is getting the flu, right? He got the flu, and unfortunately had to withdraw. Jordan Spieth then had his
Oh,
scorecard. Like, how is that even a thing? Why do golf players, golf guys even have to do a scorecard? Like, why?
it's so this tradition, this
Do we ask
let's
NBA teams to keep their own score?
keep
Like,
your own
no.
score, call your own fouls. Like, why? Why? And I get it. There's this tradition, there's this honor, there's this blah blah blah. If someone's not purposely trying to cheat and like you can't come on, is the purpose of this tournament to see who the best golfer is or who's the best golfer who can also
Keep
keep
score.
score and whatever. Come on, bro. What are we doing? We got cameras everywhere. We just play the game.
Yeah,
Why? Why?
it's ridiculous.
Why? And it's not the first time. It won't be the last time.
No.
There's people who, come on, man. This is it's utterly absurd. But I tell you what it is doing. Kudos to them because the byproduct is most likely what you're aiming to do, and that is keeping a riffraff away from a game because it will infuriate the average Joe. So while waste management and the like are trying to
Yeah.
bring in a new audience, um, your Happy Gilmore audience, if you will,
Mhm.
there's certain efforts to make sure that the integrity of the game is maintained. And I'm not mad at them for it, to be
Right.
honest. It was their sport and they like to keep it the way it was. Um, but just don't be mad when Saudis or another brand comes around and builds something better that's different and makes way more sense than the good old boys club because that was just
Yeah,
asinine.
I'm with you on that. When you have the technology, why not? At the very least, when you go to the tent after your round and you've got your scorecard, can we just, in the spirit of sportsmanship, even say, hey, I think you missed one there,
There you go.
right? That's it. It's like, oh, my bad. Like, yeah, because I'm out there golfing and I might have got distracted on what the score. There wasn't intent there. And how are you going to cheat? The whole world's watching the freaking
Exactly.
match, right? Like, okay, and make the change and you carry on. Like that doesn't make any sense. Um,
I mean, there's been even less. That's not even a real infraction. There's been even others, hitting the wrong ball or playing the wrong ball and whatnot, where
yeah,
it's like zero. What are we talking about here? And there's people's livelihood. Okay, when you're talking about someone who plays at that level, is his bank account, is he going to be hurting to feed his family? No. But if you're at the bottom, you're in
yeah,
the second hundred. If you are, fighting to be on a tour here or there, like you can't. That's
yeah,
it's a tough ask. Is it easy? Should they be able to do it? Absolutely. But I just like to be.
yeah,
I want to see everybody play, and I don't want wins or losses on the technicality. So
yeah. I do want to jump in on something that you said, which is the waste management open, because a lot of attention on how I think it's gotten a little carried away there. I like how it's a little deviation from the norm, if you will. Just like how in tennis, you've got Wimbledon on one complete side of the spectrum, right? Where everyone's got to wear white and all that stuff. And then
yes,
you've got
sir.
right? And then you got the US Open, where you can wear whatever color you want, and the fans are going to give you a little
Hmm.
attention, good, bad, or indifferent. But it's still the game. You still respect some of those traditions and the
Absolutely.
norms. There's a happy medium there. I think you and I, right? We played enough rounds of golf together to, yeah, we like to be able to go. There's that piece. You enjoy the round, but you can also have a little bit of fun too. I think waste
Sure.
management has just gotten a little bit. We need to rein that in a bit,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
just a little bit.
yeah,
Happy Gilmore is a good
just
reference,
a little.
actually.
I mean, that's where we're at this point.
Yeah,
Um, they I think pardon the pun, but they got drunk on power and attention because
yeah,
it was awesome as it, was raising the bar, that this whole experience and what they're trying out at these different places, but it just got a little over the top. It is the spectacle of whatever is happening should not ever overshadow the game. And it got to the
truth.
point where that was what the cameras were there for and not the game, and it can't be that.
Yeah, that's no good. So hopefully everyone enjoyed our quick golf minute. Just wanted to capture some of the things that are going on. And again, looking forward to seeing the Players Championship in particular, right? Because from our last episode, had the pleasure of visiting TP Sawgrass. That's in about a month. And 2 months from now, the Masters will have been behind us. So,
Mm.
Tiger, hopefully you're healthy. Would love to see you compete at the Masters. That'll be great.
Make a run.
Let's go.
He's got to stay healthy, man. That guy is. Let's
He
hope he
looked
stays healthy.
he looked all right. He just got the flu, right? So hopefully all good. But he looked good. His hobble isn't what it was last year, so that
Mhm.
should help him compete a little bit. So I know you're excited about this next one. You talked a little bit about some college football. So to maybe kind of open this up, right? We had a lot of news this week with the announcement of the 5+7 format.
Yeah.
And just yesterday, there was the announcement that the committee is already investigating the opportunity of moving from 12 teams to 14 teams. Nick Saban wants to help with the integrity of the sport. Scott Van Pelt, I caught his show a couple of days ago. I love that he did hey, with the current format going into this upcoming year, looking at last year's standings at the end of the season, this is what it could look like. And they showed what I had particular intrigue was the 7-10 matchup. And using last year's standings as an example of what we could have, it was Ohio State at 7, it was Penn State at 10.
Mm,
And those first 2 rounds, I think, will be on campus.
mm,
So to think
mm.
that, woo, right?
I love
Oh,
it. I
And
love it.
it's the top 12 teams, right? They're not going to re-scramble it to avoid in-conference matchups or anything like that. No, if it's Ohio
Nope.
State, Penn State, if it's Alabama, Georgia, that's what it's going to be. So with all that, I know you got a lot to say. Let's get into it.
Yes. Yeah. Well, simply put, I don't know why they're looking at 14.
Yeah, the numbers don't make it. Yeah,
12 is fine. 12 is perfect. And I have
eight's
awaited this
perfect.
day since I
Eight's
was, I don't
perfect.
know, 6. Well, actually, I agree. I
You've been
agree.
waiting for
Eight
this moment. We were waiting for this moment before we even born. Like this should have
before,
been a thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
My only thing with 8, first of all, I agree. 8 is a perfect, well, 8's the perfect number because there's 5 power conferences. Um, because, I think each winner should have one and then 3 at large for the most part. The reason why I like numbers like 12 or 6 is because I think there needs to, if you finish one, no matter what type of playoff series it is, what sport, I feel like you earn
Mm,
a bye. Like I
Rabbi.
just feel like
Yeah.
you should be given a bye, to recuperate, to that's the advantage.
Focus on finals.
Like it's a game like foot, yeah, but a game like football where any given week, two solid teams, anyone can win. There's no advantage, especially if we're playing at a neutral site already. It's like, what's the advantage if I'm playing number 4 Georgia or number 5 Florida State? I mean, once you're at that elk
Yeah.
at the end of the year, you could lose to anyone. So what's my advantage for finishing one, playing a team that might be worse? Like I just like the idea of buys. So that's why um 8
That's a
isn't
good point.
perfect for me anymore.
That's a good point. And you know what else is really cool too? With the first, I think it's the first two rounds are on campus. We can get matchups where the whole SEC and how they play versus everybody else's style can get completely blown out the water, right? If you've got Ole Miss and Penn State played each other in a bowl game this year, and I think the way the standings were, I think Penn State maybe was the higher seed. I'm not sure,
Mhm.
but if that game's in State College and Ole Miss has to play in the snow,
Oh,
right?
I love it. You're
Oh,
bringing up things I hadn't even thought about. You're
mm,
absolutely right. But the pageantry that will go along with that, the
amazing.
the attention, the money that'll be generated, of course, I'm sure they love that. But
How have they not done this sooner? This
the,
could have
the
been nuts.
and lest we not forget, okay, in those seasons where, who was it, Tommy Chang takes a Hawaii and makes a run, or
Mm,
or Boise State, and they're hosting,
yeah, Cincinnati, whatever. Yeah.
yeah, those campuses, that would be the big, because in any other college sport, there's everything is
UCF, Coastal
off
Carolina, right?
exact
Yeah.
and any other college sport, playoffs are central location, right? Basketball, you go to play a tournament. These small schools never host any games. So now you're giving them, it's a long shot. I know it's a long shot, but there's a possibility
Mm.
that, you know,
George
uh,
Mason, Florida
George
Gulf
May,
Coast and basketball.
exactly. You just don't know. A UC from back in Brian Kelly's day, uh,
UMBC,
Boise State
basketball
when
shout
they did
outs.
their thing. Yeah, shout out Tom Mandato
Yeah.
and UMBC, former
Yeah.
UNBC staff. But the idea, can you imagine what that
Awesome.
would do to one of those schools?
Awesome. That's what they
Oh
need.
my
That's and they
goodness.
finally are going to have it. And I think that's why they flexed on the 5+7 that breakdown so that you have maybe some flexibility. And I think the way they worded it is that the 5 it doesn't have to come from the Power Five. I think if I heard Heather Dinich, I think on ESPN, break that down, so that if you had a situation like happened a few years ago, where you have Cincinnati who wins their conference and they're undefeated, they wouldn't get left to one of those at-large bids,
Yeah, we get the 5.
right? Because I think in that same season that sees Cincinnati went undefeated, Pitt won the ACC, but
Mhm.
Pitt had like 3 losses, right? Pitt shouldn't get one of those
Right.
5.
Absolutely not. So then
Cincinnati,
it comes back. So let's circle
yeah.
back
So
then.
I think that's
Let
what they fixed. I think they fixed
so
that.
let me ask you though. It's fixed if the people who are selecting it are of sound mind,
I hear what you're
clarity
saying.
of soul, and don't have vested interest in these outcomes, because now we're talking about a lot more. There's
Yeah,
even more at stake now.
home
Home
field
field
game.
advantage, the type of money that, I mean, you have to make sure that there's some sort of breakdown of how that those monies generated will be exceptional. If Ole Miss goes to Penn State versus Ole Miss going to East Carolina or something, or North Carolina,
Yeah,
that's
because
a
what?
huge
Yeah.
differentiation. So what is the revenue share? How's that going to work? And because we're talking about such large sums of money, what say you to how the selection committee is determined? Because it's great to have all these rules in place, but if it's not an automatic bid, if we're not doing BCS, what are we talking about here? What do you say?
Well, you brought up the one variable that maybe we're not talking about is that, yes, what if you end up with a team like, I don't know, let's just use USF or UCF because they did go undefeated a couple of years ago. I don't know off the top of my head, we could do a quick Google search. What is UCF stadium capacity, for example, right? Like, so if they were somehow one of those top 5 or 6 teams and they would serve as a host, what does that look like, right? Can they host a game where they might be bringing in an Alabama, a Georgia? How about like a Notre Dame or a Penn State? There's also the stadium capacity, and do you have the appropriate stadium to host an event like this? That's one thing, depending on who the team is. But then, two, yeah, the revenue share. Are we really making an objective decision with the selection? I don't have an answer because based on what we just saw last year, the answer is no. Because Florida State should have been in there, Georgia should have been in there, and they weren't. So if you messed in that, granted, we're dealing with 4 spots instead of 12, but somebody in that room said, yeah, we need to pick the 4 best teams, and that doesn't include Georgia. Okay.
Mm, fair.
Okay.
So we can't go much further on that because we don't know where we're at. But
Yep. Yep.
you said something interesting, and I'd like for you to elaborate on it a little bit. So capacity. When you start bringing attention to that, if in
Mhm.
fact that is to be a factor, then you're talking about home field, everything a team worked for no longer being valid. Home field goes away. Even if you, I mean, I guess you could choose a nearby NFL, third party location that's nearby
Right.
and give more tickets to, or whatever you would do for the home team. But if they don't, do they have to play multiple hours away? I feel like I hear what you're saying, and I could see that being a valid point. But at the end of the day, if they only hold 30,000, then they only hold
And that's what
30,000.
they, and that's okay too, right? If Syracuse were to have an amazing run and they're in the Carrier Dome, it hosts what, 50,000 people. It's not Beaver Stadium, right? It's not the Horseshoe. It's not Notre Dame. It's not USC. So yeah, and UCF was a good example. I just looked, and
It
their
is.
stadium capacity is 45,000. So,
There you go.
but there also could be some solutions like UCF. Maybe they go to the Camping World Stadium, which is home to a bowl game, right?
Mhm.
So that could be a solution. But yeah, these are all things that I'm sure, hopefully, they thought about.
Yeah.
And the solution could just be what you said. If you qualify and you're the home team, you're the home team. And it is what it is, no different than a regular season game
There's
where,
got to be a revenue share though. They've got to
yeah,
treat it like a bowl game and have revenue share. And maybe
they have to,
I was going to say you take the whole round and just chop it up evenly,
yeah,
but you
yeah,
probably can't do that.
yeah.
Can you? Well, I'm sure with the TV rights you can if you wanted to just say if you make the playoffs, then here's how much
There's a cut,
your programs get.
which is how they do it with other championships. There's kind of a general pot that helps with
Right,
the funding of the teams for travel and everything else.
right.
So
So as long as they do that, and then let the schools keep their, their vendor monies and their parking monies, I think everyone will be happy.
yeah, it's an exciting time. It was cool to kind of get that snapshot. I know we want to wrap up with a little bit of a conversation on the NFL draft, and our
Now
listeners should.
you want to wrap up, listeners, before he does his. there is something plaguing this young man's mind if you haven't paid attention over
Oh
the last
man.
several weeks. His his beloved Bears have the number
Right.
one pick.
Right there.
They also have a talented first round top of the line draft pick playing at quarterback who has not been necessarily surrounded by the greatest support system. And so if you haven't paid attention, that's where we stand. And the rumor mill continues to circulate
Mm.
with Caleb Williams potentially getting drafted and them shipping off Justin Fields as opposed to getting Fields more weapons. So as that continues, tell the people your thoughts on the draft, but more specifically, Caleb Williams. Would you not be happy with him in a Bears uniform?
I wouldn't. So yeah, let's start with that. I wouldn't. And let's be transparent here, right? I watched maybe 3 USC games. I didn't watch a lot. Um, I didn't watch a lot. But from the outside looking in, I'm trying to understand how the number one quarterback prospect is coming from a team that was projected to contend for the national championship and finish 7-5. Now, granted, I know there were some deficiencies on defense, but 7-5, that quarterback of that team is the number one, and he's supposed to be the second coming of Andrew Luck. There, all of that stuff, as a Bears fan, I can't help but think, of course, we're the team who's got the number one pick for a draft with that kind of prospect. That is prime for a Mitch Trubisky 2.0,
Oh man.
right? I mean, not a fair comparison, but just meaning a high quarterback pick that we make again and it doesn't work. Um, so that's where I'm thinking. And then you take that with the fact of everyone has been quoting Justin Fields with his record, right? He's 10-28 or something like that as a starter, without acknowledging the fact that his first 2 years were trust the process seasons. They were literally tanking, right? Their first year, Matt Nagy didn't know what he was doing. I don't think he wanted to coach him. And then 2 seasons ago, when they played Philly, right, and they had a pretty good game against the
They did.
Eagles.
They did. And they hurt Hearts. Yes. I remember
Yeah,
that.
that's right. He did get dinged up in the game. The Bears were not playing to win, right? They were not playing to win. So when you cite his record without acknowledging the fact that he was playing for a team for 2 seasons that, for the most part, were just trying to get draft picks, come on, y'all. Like, that's not cool. That's not fair to him.
I mean, I hate citing records for any first, second, third year player. When you look at the history of the NFL and the successful quarterbacks, the overwhelming majority of them did not start first year,
Ooh, Troy
had time to
Aikman, right?
develop.
Troy Aikman's first season, they were like 1-15,
Horrendous.
right?
Oh yeah,
So,
we sacked them. Eagles sacked them. I think double digits in one game. It was crazy. At least 8 times. I think it was double digits in one game. Yeah, they were horrendous.
Reggie
I
White,
mean,
rest in peace.
RIP and Jerome Brown.
John Brown.
The only one that comes to mind, and I'm sure there are others. Someone's going to chime in, I'm sure, but I mean, besides Peyton Manning, and even he had as many
Yeah.
picks as anyone ever in that year. So I just don't. Records don't mean anything if you're going to choose a young man and put him in a position. The by and far in any sport, the most defined leader role that there is in sports, and you expect this young man to lead grown men
Hmm.
in his first or second year, you're crazy. You're crazy. You're better off having a veteran for that first year, 2 years, not even for, you don't want to give it her. He's got to just, how about just to see how they do it, how they go
Yeah.
about studying, how they balance a girlfriend or a wife and people and media and, fools in the locker room and coaching staff transitions, like the other stuff,
Hmm.
everything else, so that he can just play football. Because guess what? When you put him in there, you
Yeah.
say, you see, his first year, he wasn't even good his first year. I don't know how good he was because I don't know how much time he got to spend studying because I don't know if he knows how much time he needs to study. I don't know how much rookie stuff he had to go do, buying donuts to do. I don't know if he learned how to become a man. I
Yeah.
don't know if he learned how to become a student of football and study. I don't know if he learned how to take care of his body like a temple and eat right. And I don't know any of
Yeah.
this because we didn't give him a chance to acclimate. You threw him right into it's not just throwing him in the line and see if he floats or whatever the saying is in football. When you throw him out there on the gridiron as the leader, you're not accounting for every
Mm,
other factor that is
everything.
changing in their life. So I will never judge an athlete, especially a quarterback,
Yeah.
by their first couple years in the NFL. Never. I don't care. There's nothing you can say could change my mind. I don't care if they have a Ryan Leaf type year. I don't care if they have an RG3 type year where they did everything great. That does not, you're not who you are after year one. You can't find me one quarterback in the history of the NFL who after year one, that's what they were. Well, I guess if they were terrible and they kept being terrible, but I mean, who who started out great and continued up. It doesn't happen because they're becoming a man in so many other ways. So they can miss me with that. So I'll support you with that one. Um, having said that,
Appreciate that.
having said that,
Here you go.
um,
Let me down slowly.
there's the likes that you've had. I mean, you chose Mitch Trubisky.
Mitch, we traded up for Mitch
I
Trubisky.
was going to say
And Patrick Mahomes was
there's a guy who
picked.
just won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say. Of my 40 plus years on earth, every year there's a quarterback. Every year. Like right now, they could be saying next year, oh, the quarterback class this week. And inevitably next January, February is, oh, this person, and
Yeah.
everyone climbs it. So every year there's at least one, if not two or three quarterbacks that are going to be franchise quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Every year. And I'd say once every 5 years, there's a generational talent that you can't miss on. Of all those generational talents, I can only say that in my time that I can think of, correct me if I'm wrong, Peyton Manning's the only one to win a title. Um, Drew Brees did, but I don't know. He was good, but he wasn't,
Mm-mm. He was a second round pick out of Purdue. Yeah,
or
he
not Drew
was.
Brees. I'm sorry. Eli Manning.
Okay.
Uh, but he wasn't the generational. He played well. I don't consider him to be a generational talent, but he did win, and he was a top five pick. Um, but really, like to really live up to their expect,
It's not the
Peyton Manning.
top. Yeah.
Give me Peyton Manning, Cam Newton, maybe. Um, but who else?
Yeah.
Who else?
Yeah. Tom
Now
Brady was
I'm
what?
not
Yeah.
talking about they came close and that, but I mean, who else? Who are all the top quarterbacks of the last 2 decades? What your
Russell Wilson, fourth round pick, right? We know Tom Brady. We know about
Aaron
Brock
Rodgers,
Purdy. Yep.
Drew, like, who are the guys who've
Yeah.
won a chip or two, an MVP or two, and is destined for Canton
Yeah.
one way or another? So
Patrick Mahomes
you've
was
got
the
Brady,
third quarterback
you've
taken.
got
Yep.
Patrick Mahomes, you've got Tom Brady, you've got Drew Brees, you've got you can't even throw Matt Ryan in there, even though he put up the
Say they
numbers.
win.
He didn't win. So you've got a handful. And yet every year there's two or three that could be part of that
Hmm.
group. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. So whether Caleb Williams has just as good a chance as Justin Williams, as Drake May, as anyone else, the, build the team and then go find yourself a Brock Purdy who won't turn it over and has some guts. That's it.
That's
That's
it.
it. Build the team. Offensive line, defensive line, secondary, right down the middle, right? Get your safeties, get your middle linebacker, work your way out.
Yeah.
You'll be
Because
fine.
you're just as likely to win with a Trent Dilfer as you are with, yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. You
Joe
most
Flacco.
certainly are. So I'm with you on this one. Pass on Williams. I don't know that I'm saying pass for the same reasons. I don't know if he's going to be great. He definitely has a skill set, but
He does.
he does give me it's not his fault, but the way the media talks about him gives off shades of Matt Barkley. I had no faith that Matt Barkley was going to be exceptional. Um, again, I'm listening to myself, so maybe it was a situation he went into, but I just never had the confidence um, in his gameplay that he was going to be as great as everyone made him out to be. Um, but regardless of my reasoning, we're on the same boat with this one.
Yeah.
unload him for a boatload of picks, you're more than likely to hit on one or two of them, and better your odds.
And yeah, I think that I think when I see Justin Fields, I'm like, this is a guy has not been coached very well. And then yeah, they still need to get a lot of talent. So my hope is that all of this noise is just a whole lot of a smoke screen, which is what they did last year, and they got DJ
Smart,
Moore out of it,
smart.
right?
Build it up, and get more out of him. If everyone thinks you're going to draft him, sure.
Yep. Get Washington to come on up, get some picks from him, move to 2, get yourself Marvin Harrison, and then at 9, maybe get that some line help on offense or defense.
Mm,
Or maybe at 9, you pick a quarterback. Maybe you pick the boy out of Washington. Maybe you take your boy from Michigan. I would not do that.
no.
I would not do that. Okay.
No, get yourself a solid,
They needed
a
it. They
flat.
need a
Find
lineman.
yourself a Joe Flacco behind him
They need a
that
center.
can.
You know what Chicago Bears need? They need a center. Because most of Justin Fields' issues was straight ahead.
Mm.
They need to get themselves a center. So, but
You
yeah,
know, would you like? I know
not
we're
not at the
trying to do the.
ninth pick though. But yeah, go ahead.
No, would you Cam Newton to be on that in that quarterback room? And I say that because Cam Newton does not have the rap of being this great, leader, this, da, da, da. But in his podcast, he comes across as someone who's very knowledgeable of not just football, but of the people playing football, namely the quarterback. And it's not always what people want to hear, but if you go beyond the delivery, his presentation, whatever it is that can be off-putting, I gotta say, even his controversial stuff to me, isn't as controversial as people make it out to be. I think he's been straightforward, and that's something that a Justin Fields might be able to benefit from.
My answer to that is no. Not no, no, no. And this is why I feel like when I hear that there are some times when I hear Cam Newton where I'm like, okay, some of his Brock Purdy stuff I don't agree with. And I feel like more times than not, when Cam is talking, it's in an effort to try and validate his greatness as opposed to giving a objective opinion. So, no. You know who should get brought in to talk with Justin Fields about success with his skill set? The first call I'm making is Steve Young.
Oh,
You bring in Steve Young and you talk to him. Let's do some coaching there. Mike Vick too, but Steve Young's the first call.
well, I just think you need someone there on a daily basis. I don't know who the quarterback's coach is and who but like, I think you need someone there on a daily basis. He's not been in a very stable situation.
And I
I
think
don't,
they're I think
I
they're
don't.
bringing I think they're bringing that with Shane Waldron coming in from Seattle. He helped. He was there to resuscitate Geno Smith, right,
Okay,
with Pete Carroll. So, of course, Pete Carroll probably had a lot to do with that
that,
too. But
right.
I feel much more confident with a guy who actually called plays and
Mm,
actually called plays for a team that had success.
sure.
So,
I don't
yeah.
know. I
But I
think
hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying. A
I want to
Brian
give
Greasy, I would much rather a
yes.
Brian Greasy. Now, granted, he doesn't have the skill set that Justin Fields has, but someone who played the position, had success, and played the position in Chicago because Bears fans are rabid when it comes to the quarterback
Mm,
position. It's the only franchise in the NFL has not had a quarterback throw for 4,000 yards. The Cleveland Browns has someone who's thrown for 4,000 yards.
didn't Derek Anderson do it?
Yeah, the Houston Texans have someone who's thrown for 4,000 yards. Like every team in the NFL has had somebody throw for 4,000 yards, except the Chicago Bears.
Wait, did Carolina?
Every team, every team except the
Well,
Bears of
like,
Chicago.
like somebody commented, and he said, "Yeah, yeah, our boy, the guy. I wonder if Cam did it." No, I doubt it.
So
Maybe Jake Delhomme or
Bears
something.
fans think about
Oh, Kerry
we didn't
Collins.
take Patrick Mahomes. I think about we didn't take Dan Marino. We could have taken Dan Marino. We had 2 picks in the first round of that draft. And we said no, because we got Jim McMahon. Jimmy Mack, I love you. We want to chip with you. But could you imagine Dan Marino with 85 Bears?
Anybody would have won a chip with that team. Are you
Bears
kidding
would have
me?
won 3 Super Bowls in the 80s.
I would have won a
Dan
chip
Marino.
with that team.
Oh, so
That's
anyways, we haven't gotten
all right.
quarterback right in 50 years. So, and the last thing I'll say on this subject, Andre, is that when the Bears had that pick, for the Bears to be the Bears, I was thinking, don't you go pick Mac Jones. You go pick Mac Jones. You being the Bears. You
Don't
pick
you go?
Justin Fields. You traded up with the Giants. You better pick, and
Yeah,
they picked him.
yeah,
I was a freaking lunatic that night because I was so glad that they finally made the right decision.
yeah,
Don't screw this up and get rid of
yeah.
him before you've given him the time he needs to develop. Let's see what happens. We got 2 more months to see what happens. So
Let's see. I still say I think somebody like him could really.
I'm just saying, if the Bears announce that they traded that pick, you're going to hear me from Columbus or from Ohio, northern Ohio, screaming with excitement. So I hope they do the right
Well, I'm pulling for you all.
thing.
I hope that they do. I really do.
Let's see. Let's see. I love quarterbacks number one. Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields. Let's run the NFC. Let's do it.
I'm fine with that.
I'm here for an Eagles Bears NFC championship. Let's do it. So,
I'm all for that.
let's go. Fog Bowl 2.0. So
Oh God, no. It's the worst day. That's the I hate you for that. That was the year of
yeah, it
my child that
was.
my childhood crumbled.
Yeah,
All because of that game, because that team was it. That
yeah,
Eagles team, they were going to do it that year.
that was it.
Everything was clicking, everything was right, and that was the most ridiculous travesty in the
It was
history of
bad.
sports.
I think the Bears got blanked in the championship game against the 49ers, if my memory's right, the following
That,
weekend. So
I look, if I had a time machine, and I'm dead serious about
y'all
this,
loving this? This
I'm
is
not
great.
going for money. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to save lives. I promise you this. I'm going to somehow make that game. I'm not even going to cheat. I'm just going to make sure that that game gets played under fair conditions,
Yeah,
one way or another.
how that didn't get
That's
postponed.
it. I
I'll say that.
promise you.
That game should
That's
have been
the
postponed.
only thing I want changed in my life.
I don't know how
Shouldn't say the
nobody
only
got
thing, but
I don't know how nobody got seriously hurt in that game.
well, somebody was on the field for like a play down. Come on, man. They couldn't even see but come
I
on, what are
couldn't
we
see it.
talking about? It's
Yeah.
the most ridiculous. And then as soon as the game over, it clears up like nothing happened.
Well,
Went into the half up. Come
you
on,
saying
man.
that as if the Bears controlled that. You think they've got some special seeds they threw out? Because they would have used it since then. So,
I'm saying the
all
refs were
right.
in it. We have enough evidence to show.
This was a lot of fun.
All right.
This was
Yep,
good.
great times. Looking forward to the next episode. We'll come back. We got a lot of things coming up. And just maybe play your cards right. You might have a special guest coming up in our
Yes,
next episode.
sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
To our people, appreciate y'all.
Peace.
Good night,
See you
Venezuela.
later.
Peace.